Celebrity, true or false?
You can't handle the truth.
And I always love showing production value to a man like you, Barry Levinson. That's it right there. So, first up, true or false, Barry Levinson, you were inspired to write the movie Diner due to an offhand comment made by Mel Brooks. Is that true?
True. Yeah.
So, where was this? How did this happen?
I did 2 films with him, a silent movie and High Anxiety. And the one time we were coming from lunch, and out of the blue, he said, when we were walking back to the office, he said, because I would tell him diner stories about, this happened and that happening. And one day he just said, you ought to write that as a screenplay, which never occurred to me, And I said, really? He said, yeah. And then he actually said, did you ever see Fellini's Evit Alone? Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I hadn't. And I said, I have to find it. But back in those days, you couldn't find those movies.
Yeah, right. There's no YouTube. There's no Blockbuster.
There was no way to track it down.
Right.
But it stayed in my head. And over the Christmas holidays, I ended up writing Diner.
Because you were telling him stories of a Baltimore diner while you were a writer on the set of those movies.
Yeah,
right,
because I was working on those 2 films. And during that period of time, he brought it up. It never would have occurred to me, actually.
So you were.
I mean, he's an amazing person.
He is truly transformative for me as somebody who loves comedies and somebody who just loves that humor. I showed you on our set. I have not 1 but 2 autographed albums of the 2000 and 2000. There's a 2013-year-old man album all there, signed by Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, and High Anxiety in particular. You played, if I'm not mistaken, you were a writer, but you also played the bellman.
Yeah, I was the bellhop.
The bellhop who stabbed him with a newspaper in the Psycho takeoff scene from this Hitchcock
very
takeoff
crazy
film,
sequence,
right? Where you're like, here's your newspaper.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the line that he says as his face is on the floor of the showers. That guy gets no tip.
Yeah.
But this is a big moment for me personally. So I did SportsCenter for 7 years on ESPN a long time ago, and one of my catchphrases for a baseball highlight when someone was thrown out at third base or at home was, "Those who are late do not get fruit cut."
Yeah, right.
From High Anxiety.
Yeah.
Did you write that line?
I don't remember. It's funny. I don't know. One of the good things about working with Mel is that if something's funny, it's funny. It's not like he has to have possession of it.
Yes.
So as an example, I'm sorry, I have a little in my throat.
Sure.
If I was saying one day, I was kidding around, and I took the sound of Bernard Herrmann's music with the shower scene, which has this,
yeah, of course.
and I was making fun of it. And I ended up saying, like, the bellhop is going, here, here, here. And I'm like copying the high-pitched sound of that.
Yeah.
And Mel said, we got to do that.
That's how that made the movie?
Yeah, I was kidding around making fun of that. And the bellhop, I just threw it together in some crazy fashion. But right away, he said, "Oh, no, that's funny. We got to do that. That's funny." And what's so great about him, it's not like, I'm Mel Brooks and this is what we do. He immediately responds to things, and you go with it. So he's very open about it, and that was the great fun, because we worked for 3 years together, one film after another.
What a blessing!
And it was like going to a version of film school, but it was the Mel Brooks Film School, because it was one of my first jobs in terms of writing screenplays, and that was the beginning of it. But he's very, very good at it, and works. trying to find. He doesn't like a little laugh. He said, we don't want a little laugh. We want they can't breathe. They're laughing so hard. They can't. So that's what he's going for all the time.
Success. As you went to the you went to the Film Institute of the Very, Very Nervous. I love that movie. Seriously, I mean that Nurse Diesel, played by Cloris Leachman, saying, "Those who are late do not get fruit cup." I use that over.
She was priceless.
Over again. All right, next, let's get to the movie Diner. Next up, Barry Levinson. True or false, in Diner, the infamous football quiz that Eddie forces his fiancée to pass in order for them to get married about the Colts is, in fact, based on what one of your cousins did in real life.
Yeah, my cousin Eddie.
He did it in real life?
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't get married unless his fiancée passed the test of the Colts?
They had the football test. And here's the kicker after how crazy that is.
Yes.
He says to me one time, and seeing the movie, and with the football test, and he said, it really was, it was crazy actually to give her a football test. And I said, really? And he says, yeah, because, a week later, she couldn't remember any of the answers.
That's the problem? It wasn't the concept of the test.
No, not the
she
concept.
Didn't retain the information? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what he had.
Oh, my God.
He was just he was the most stubborn individual that I've ever met in my life. He was, my cousin. We were very, very close. We used to go to, as kids in Baltimore, when a baseball team would come in. Yeah, and we would go down, to there and get the autographs. No, at the hotel where they're going to stay. Okay. And you get the autographs when the players get off, the bus. Mm-hmm. And he was a big Yankee fan, and I was like a Oriole fan, dyed in the wool. And I always remember it's like one of these stupid things to do is I was so anti-Yankee that they're getting off the bus. Yogi Berra, I got my autograph book. Yogi Berra, I'm not getting his autograph. And then Bill Scourin, not getting his autograph. Mickey Mantle getting off, not getting his autograph.
Oh, wow.
And so I didn't want any Yankee in my autograph book. That was my particular.
You have standards
thing, and that.
But Brooks Robinson, he makes it right, obviously, and I mean, that's the guy.
Any Oriole. At that point. Yeah.
Okay.
The team wasn't very good back then, but it was still. You have a team.
Are you still locked into them now, like Adley Rutschman in the current version of the Orioles? That it looks like they're having a renaissance right now.
This is a promising team. There's some really good players.
No doubt about that. All right, true or false? This is great. True or false, Barry Levinson? Robert Redford could truly play baseball, and you had trouble getting him to pull back for scenes in which Roy Hobbs was struggling in The Natural.
There was one time, because he was a good athlete.
He was.
Yeah, he was very good. And he was supposed to strike out on this one particular thing. And, he'd swing, foul it off, then he'd swing, he hit a home run, Bob, you just got to strike out. I mean, and, because we have, about 4,000 extras there, so he had a couple home runs he had to put in there, and as I remember it. He was a really good athlete, so those catches that he was making in the field, that was him. There were no doubles for anything.
Normally that's great for a director as opposed to trying to make somebody who's not an athlete look like an athlete.
Yeah. No,
so he wouldn't strike out? He couldn't strike out is what you're saying?
he had to, and we did. Okay. But I think it's, you get all pumped up. You got an audience out there, 4,000 or 5,000 extras.
Right.
So I think he just wanted to I'd like to get a couple home runs in there just in part of the warm-up to it all.
Is he really left-handed, or did you have to flip the...
No, he is.
He really is left-handed. So you got a left-handed guy who can actually play baseball, who's as great as Robert Redford playing Roy Hobbs in The Natural.
Yeah, no, we first, when we met on it, he loved baseball and talked about it. And he is, it's not like you got to do, you've heard the stories in the Lou Gehrig story, the limitations that Gary Cooper had or whatever. Redford was very, very athletic.
Let me say something. What a beautiful movie this is. And I can't get enough of it. It's a remote drop for me. If I see it, I got to see it to the end. You know, because obviously Duvall is in it. He's incredible. And Wilford Brimley is the manager, and Richard Farnsworth, right? And the music, this, that, the other thing. And I was so blown away by it. And then I read the book. And the book is so dark. The Bernard Malamud actual source material, Roy takes the money. You know, and so how did you square that circle for this? Did you ever write a script where it was completely faithful to the book?
No, it was the film is very close to the screenplay, and by design, because when we looked at it, it was a fable,
right?
You know, and you go, all right, it's a fable, but in baseball and other sports, there are these moments that are like beyond comprehension.
Correct. Can't make it up.
No.
Right.
And so you go, well, all right. I mean, so let's play in that world that these things happen. And of course, you know, the thing with Kurt Schilling where the blood on his sock, you know, and those things, and many times when we talk about, say, a sport, baseball, is that we always take it a little further. You know, I mean, he was leaping towards the top of the wall. You know, it's not quite that way, but it's part of the fun of recounting a particular game that was played and the excitement of it. So that was the premise of that. We're almost on the end of, you know, on the edge of mythology, you know, but it's the big moments of it all and the spirit of the individual and the nature of the game and all of that. It was all wrapped up in that particular movie, which at that time, there was always a lot of this negative things. Like at that point, there had not been a successful baseball film in a long, long time. Right. And all had been failures. So when we were working on it, there was all this negative thing like, well, I don't know, baseball movies, that genre's over, it's gone, done. But And this is, you know, to Redford. Redford wanted to do the film. We met on it by happenstance, actually, and went from there.
And then to tear the cover off the ball, Roy, and then he literally does. Yeah. Right? The lightning strike at the end. I'm wondering if, since you, again, were making up the ending whole cloth here, hit the ball into the lights. Into the light towers. In the light towers. Was that born out of Reggie Jackson's home run in the All-Star game? Did that come, the one that he actually hit the light tower in Detroit in the 70s? Was that an inspiration for that moment? I don't think so. Oh, okay. I don't believe so. I mean, this is the sort of stuff, you know, I can read into it. He hits it and the whole thing explodes and it's like, you know, fireworks almost. Are you getting goosebumps hearing this? Because I am. You know, it's awesome. Right, and then it's all the light bulbs coming down as he's running the bases, music's going, and then the next thing you see is in the field with his kid. Yeah, oh, that was come on. You know, and that was really trying to do a fable. You know, and sports in general. There's always these moments that happen that people talk about forever. Yes. You know, it's why, you know, to a certain group, you know, sports is amazing, whether it's basketball and some particular throw, he's falling or whatever. I mean, there's always that part of it. And were you the last one on this one? Were you the play-by-play guy? Is it true that you did the announcing? I did do that. You know, what happened is I did it as a temp track initially, and then everybody said, well, we ought to leave it that way, you know. So I said, all right. Goodbye, Mr. Baseball, all that sort of stuff. That was you? Yeah, that's your voice? Yeah, that was me. Goodbye, Mr. Spaulding. Mr. Spaulding, that's right. Mr. Spaulding. Yeah, right. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.